I would now invite Mr. David Fay, the Regional English Language Officer at the Public Affairs at the US Embassy, Islamabad, for the keynote session titled The Story of Six Slick Screens and How They Stir Up Schooling. A native Iowan, David Fay joined the State Department in 2003 after nearly 2 decades as a teacher trainer, and publisher working in the United States, Costa Rica, Spain, and Turkey. He has served as the Regional English Language Officer in Tashkent, Moscow, Lima, and Ankara. A Fulbright alumnus, he holds an undergraduate degree in Latin American Studies and Spanish, and graduate degrees in English Language Education, US Literature, and Resource Management. His wife and 2 sons are natives of Izmir, Turkey, which together with Iowa, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, they consider home. With David, we have Mr. Abdul Majid as the co-presenter. He is the Country Program Manager, Regional English Language Officer at the US Embassy, Islamabad. So let's welcome Mr. David.
Thank you, Nayab, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, possibly good night to some of our viewers. A quick thank you to Shahid Balta for his beautiful recitation this morning. I want to thank as well not only Majid, who is with me today, but the rest of the Relo Pakistan team, including Rashid, who's worked so hard on this conference, Aisha, Mudassir, and Iqbal. Mudassir's family member is in a difficult situation this morning, and we wish him a quick, speedy recovery. Thank you, task force, social media partners for the Relo Pakistan Facebook page, the virtual interns, as well as all of the other volunteers who are making this event so special today. I'm not sure if they're with us, but I want to thank Relo Belgrade's Kevin and Ivana for helping us prepare for this event. Special thanks to Adil, Ambar, Binish, and Mohammed Ikram, who are helping us today on Zoom and on Facebook. Of course, to Sidra and her amazing team at Evolution. And then finally, Dr. Atrazolu and Dr. Miss Barr, from the University of Iowa, who are going to finish today with a very special plenary on education, technology, and design learning. So let me share my screen if you don't mind. Okay. Nayab, does that come out? Does the screen come out fine? Can you see the screen?
Yes, I can see the screen.
Perfect. And I want to point out the title. I saw Nayab pronounce it just oh so well. It is a bit of a tongue twister. I was asked when I was putting this together by my colleague Rashid to come up with a title that will be of interest to folks, and so there's a bit of a tongue twister, and I'm wondering, Majid, do you want to give it a try? I'm particularly interested in how well you can say the 3 words 6 slick screens.
Sure, David. Sure, David. Let me have a go. 6 slick screens, 6 slick screens, 6 slick screens.
That is remarkably well done for a Saturday morning. You did it much better than I could possibly do it. I don't know, Majid. What do you think? Should we just call out somebody in the audience to see if they could actually?
Sure. Why not? Why not? I see 430 participants already in our room. So let me, and I believe all of you, one of you will try to have a go at this tongue twister. So let me pick someone completely randomly, and I'll have to ask you to unmute unmute your microphone first. So Fawzia Shabir, do you want to have a go at this?
Yeah, sir, sure. Thank you so much for choosing me.
Please.
Six slick screens, six slick screens, six slick screens, six slick screens, six slick screens.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Bravo,
Thank
Fauzia.
you.
Bravo, bravo. So let me get at what we're going to try to cover during this first session. We're going to take a look at the magic of this screen that allows us to enter what in some ways seems almost a magical world, the screen being a portal, a door into this world. The graphic tries to capture that. It looks a little bit like an Escher drawing, if you're familiar with that artist. He's one of the artists that I liked looking at growing up as a child, because it seemed like such an amazing visual puzzle. We will be focusing on the screen as a portal to this visual puzzle today in the world of education, in the world of language education specifically. The visual is from one of my favorite news sources and a great source for podcasts as well, National Public Radio, otherwise known as NPR. A show of hands if you are familiar with this particular website, npr.org, or the news channel itself, or perhaps some of the podcasts that that NPR produces. Majid, what's the outcome? What are you seeing on your screen? We might be having some sound issues.
I'm seeing mixed results, but not too many thumbs up from our viewers in Pakistan. There are some thumbs ups as well, but overall, not too many of our viewers today are familiar with NPR.
Which is fine. So may that be one of the new URLs, one of the new websites you walk away with today. I will mention a couple of podcasts that I really enjoy that are produced by NPR. One is called Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. And another one is called the TED Radio Hour, based on the TED Talks. I listen to podcasts quite a bit, especially when I'm out on long walks. And I believe, Majid, you also enjoy podcasts, don't you?
I do, David, and to be honest, most of the time when I'm in my car, that's the way I reach my podcast doors. And I'm subscribed to a couple of them, WNYC, although it's a city radio station, but it's mostly transmission is global. So I love a few podcasts, especially I'm addicted to a couple of them on NPR.
We will be coming back to the importance of audio a little bit later on with one of our 6 screens. I'll leave that as a bit of a mystery for now. For the time being, I do want to emphasize the idea of coming into an awareness of where the screen leads, and that it has a propensity to stir up schooling. It has for years, well over a decade, if not even 2 decades in many countries. It has been spurred on recently, unfortunately, by the pandemic. And teachers like yourselves found themselves about a year ago now, all of a sudden scrambling to transition very quickly to some kind of distance education model in order to meet the needs of your students. This has indeed stirred up schooling, and I want to take a closer look at what the screen allows us and perhaps doesn't allow us to do. And let me go to our goals for this morning's session. I do want to look at a variety of screens, but as metaphors in a figurative way in order to better understand different aspects of digital education. Because we are a group of linguists, to satisfy the linguist in all of us, I want to add a linguistic dimension. And I hope that the screens that I will be sharing, these metaphors, will lead to some new vocabulary and expressions. And then finally, because we are a family of teachers here this morning, I want to make sure that we walk away with some tech and tips as well. Let's start with a poll. And if you would be so kind as to answer this poll. And I will ask my colleague Majid, as the response comes in, what sort of response he is seeing.
Yes,
I do want to note that for those of you on Facebook Live, I understand you also have an opportunity to take the poll. Please do. Your response will come in a little bit later, but we definitely want to see your response on Facebook Live as well. What kind of results are you seeing, Majid?
Yes, David, it's rapidly fluctuating, so I will allow our listeners to complete the poll. Meanwhile, I just want to highlight that more than 100 viewers have tuned into our Facebook live streaming, and they are also very active and busy. They also responded to David's previous question, and right now we are waiting for them to take the poll. Right now in the Zoom meeting room, the number is still rising, so I'll wait a bit more, but so far the 60% of the participants are saying more than three or more, 30% are saying two screens, and 10% are saying one. There is very tiny majority the minority saying, but still, so three or more is a popular response as for the number. And which is the most prominent, more prevalent is definitely going in favor of the smartphone. Almost 75%, 200 respondents have said that smartphone is the most prevalent screen in their life, David. So this is from
understood. I am please, Majid.
And I will, in a moment, because Facebook responses are a little slow to reach us. We do have responses from Facebook as well. So 67% respondents on Facebook say three or more, and 33% and 1% say one or less. And as far as the most prevalent screen, again, smartphone, with 75% of the respondents on Facebook also pointing out that the smartphone is the most prevalent screen in their life, David.
Which I'm not surprised about. Certainly the statistics that I've looked at certainly point towards the smartphone as the most common way that we enter this digital world. I think maybe also as the numbers continue to go in, perhaps in the chat box, if you would all write that comes first to your mind before the word screen. So in other words, if you had the construction blank screen, or I should say blank screen, turning it around the other direction, what would the word in the blank be? Feel free to enter that information again into your chat box, or if you're on Facebook, please enter it in as well. We will get that information, just a little bit slowly, a little bit more slowly. Any responses on the blank screen, Majid?
I see smart screen more than once. Board is another response. And then I see interactive screen, smart screen is repeated. Share screen and silver screen. Yes, this is.
Hey, one of the words that Miss Fendrick used, the silver screen.
And you know, my apologies because the screen is constantly moving. So many responses coming in, so I can't really say who says you know, the name of the person. Monitor is another one, and interactive board is another response.
Okay, a question, Majid. I thought maybe the first or second blank screen that you said, the word was board. Is that correct? B-O-R-E-D, board? Okay, that is wonderful. We will come back to that. I am not surprised. Screen fatigue is something that has come up very, very often. So I'm going to move on. I want to take a look at some of the screens that you actually mentioned. And you all counted the smart screen in the lower right-hand corner picture, the smartphone rather, the screen of the smartphone. I'm hesitant to share with you the fact that this was this picture on the top left was actually the very first screen that I saw as a child. My father is a mathematician. And as many mathematicians in the 1960s, he became a computer scientist. And when I was about 6 or 7 years old, in the fine city of St. Louis, Missouri, I was taken down to a dust-free, climate-controlled basement. And this was the first computer that I actually saw. You can see that instead of CDs, or any other kind of memory device, they were reel-to-reel tapes. And there were many of them. There was a closet, or rather a room full of them. What's amazing is that in the 40, 50 years since these has the power that is stronger than this giant computer here. Quite a bit stronger. And this is a fairly standard smartphone that I'm talking about, not a special smartphone in any way. Add to that the functionality of a camera, a video camera, an audio recorder, a telephone, and you far outstrip the capabilities of this giant computer here. This is kind of a funny photo of somebody trying to be portable with a desktop, our attempt to be able to travel with our computer, which led to the invention of the laptop and the tablet. And now we seem to be able to put tablets just about everywhere. This is a digital gadget transformation that does not seem to have any real end in sight. I want to go back, though, to what I had said earlier, which was that my focus is on screens as metaphors in a figurative way. And though we have several digital screens here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the number of digital screens that I count. Can anybody find a screen here that is not digital? It's hidden. It's a little bit of a tricky question. And Majid, as soon as you believe you have an answer, feel free to share it.
Sure, sure. I'm keeping an eye. So far, this camera, eyes, blackboard, windscreen.
Windscreen, yes. If you look very carefully, right up here, just beyond the edge of the tablet, where my pointer is, you will see a wind screen, a non-digital screen. And that will be one of the screens that I'll come back to talk about.
Yes.
But were you going to say something,
I
Majid?
was waiting that maybe someone will say the American alternate of the British windscreen, but mostly from viewers from Pakistan are sticking in because we use UK English and standard British English. So far, windscreen only. I can see windscreen. Many our participants are saying windscreen.
And thank you for pointing. Thank you for pointing that out, Majid. I appreciate that. Yes, windscreen is much more common in the UK than in the US. In the US, we have a different expression for that front piece of glass on a car. Anybody get it?
Let's see. Anyone who can guess what the American alternate for the British windscreen is? So far, windshield.
Hey, windshield. Yes. Excellent. Congratulations. Who was the person? Who was the participant?
More than one. Now many. Mohammad Marazim, Mohammad Arsalan, two were the two first ones, and now obviously I see many responses.
Congratulations. Let's take a look now at some of the other words that do come with the word screen. Some of you might be familiar with this. I'm guessing that many of you are not. It is the Corpus of Contemporary American English, otherwise known as COCA. It's a very powerful tool for linguists, specifically used by corpus linguists. It's a central tool to corpus linguistics. It is a collection of data, words specifically, that are gathered from a variety of sources. Sometimes these corpora, in plural, focus on a specific content area or even a specific source or even genre. This particular corpus, COCA, is one that includes a wide variety of sources and genres and content areas. It taps into about 1 billion words, which is one of the largest in the world. And if you are interested in learning more about these corpuses, and this one in I do hope to have a webinar later this month with Factitious, Pakistan's Teachers Association for English Language Teaching Professionals. And today at 4 p.m., they will be doing a presentation at our conference, Dr. Kamal and his team, a great team of professionals. I wrote into the search engine noun and the word screen. And this is the result that is generated. It's based on frequency. And as you can see, the most frequent word that appears before screen is computer. No real surprises. TV, touch, we'll come back to. There's silver screen. Touch screen, that's a new one for me. Lock screen, not something that I'm all that familiar with. And the list goes on and on. Let's take a closer look at what happens when we click on one of the words. In this case, this search was about the word screen, and the most common kind of adjective that goes before screen is big screen. And here you'll get a better sense of the power of this particular corpus. You've got the word in context. If you click on this, you get the full context. You see over here that it's from the news. The specific source is Atlanta, and the year. And if you come down here a little bit further, you'll see that some of the sources are actually from spoken English. In this case, again, a news channel, but the spoken sample here is not scripted. If it's scripted, then you'll see the word news out. Blogs are also common. And you'll even see, here's an example that's from a movie. Here's another movie, a fiction, a Bourne Ultimatum, a film that you might recognize. And so you have a chance to see the way that dictionaries are being produced. They'll be familiar with words, expressions, just to actually go and see how is being used. Please, Majid.
I must out that I'm not at all surprised, and our audiences, our participants today are not only sharing links about different tutorials. Even one of our participants, Jahanzeb Tareen, pointed out that he knew about COCA, and he found out a lot more about it through our American English MOOCs. This is like a constant scrolling in the chat box where I see that resources related to Corpora are being shared. Fantastic to see. I just wanted to point this out, David.
Thank you, Majid. No, that is good to see, and that's one of the magical things about having such a large event. Realizing that it's not quite so easy to have breakout rooms with such a large group, but that you are, in a sense, crowdsourcing this knowledge and sharing these. Please continue sharing. That's great to know and great to hear. I do want to mention that our very first screen of the 6, so screen number 1 of the 6 screens, the 6 slick screens that I am referring to, is indeed a big screen. But I did say that I am referring to the figurative meaning of big screen. And by that when we first enter the abundance, if not excess, of information. And just a sample of that is what we can actually cull from a search as teachers who are completely dedicated to our field. The fact that you're joining us on a Saturday morning attests to your dedication to the field. And I thank you for that. Means that you along these lines. And Majid, I will turn it over to you. Would you like to talk a little bit about what the American English Live webinar series is?
Sure, David, I'll be very happy to. But just a reminder that many of our Zoom participants, especially if you see all these wonderful resources being shared in chat box, you see, click on it and save chat. So this will allow you to save all the links and resources that are being shared, because it's hard to follow them live when they are scrolling so fast. As for the American English resources, definitely I would want to point out the live webinar series. Live webinar series is the most popular and most well attended. It's not just in Pakistan only, globally. The State Department Professional Development Resource, this live webinar series is very, very popular. I must put that right now we're in series 10. So there are already series that have been sort of aired. And if you missed the previous 9 series, don't worry. They're all still available, accessible through our American English website. I think those of you who don't know American English, you can just go and browse to the tree or the archived webinar series from previous 9 series. the americanenglish.state.gov. And if you run search AE webinars, American English, you will find them on Google easily as well. Current series that is being aired, and another one will be on air on February 10th, and the series is Unleashing Your Teaching Power, to turn you into a superpower, a superhero. Introduction in online learning environment, absolutely relevant these days because of the virtual mode of delivery, most cases due to COVID. So I encourage our viewers today to explore American English Live webinar series. I should also mention the MOOCs, American English MOOCs. MOOCs have already been mentioned more than once on Facebook and Zoom by our viewers. So some of you are already familiar with our MOOCs. One that is currently available is the English for Media Literacy. And this was made available on October 5, 2020, and will still be accessible until April 30, 2021. So feel free to browse this MOOC and other MOOCs. If you have a Canvas account, it's very easy to import our State Department American English MOOCs to your Canvas account by just a click. So absolutely, I would encourage our viewers to also follow American English for Educators Facebook page as well, which showcases most of our resources which are free to access. So I can go on and on, David. But
thank you, Majid. Thank you. Great resources that you mentioned. I appreciate it. And we'll come back to the MOOC one a little bit later in one of the slides. I do want to point out the couple of other images that I have up there. Two other great sources, also mostly open educational resources. In other words, resources that are open to the public, that only require attribution if you are reusing them. The idea being that they should be used far and wide for educational purposes. One is Learning English at VOA News, and the other one is the Smithsonian. And I really wanted to point out the content here, which is a focus on the environment, something that I think we all need to be concerned about, aware of. We need to make our students aware of this issue as well. And the point I believe we really want to make is that thanks to this big screen, we have access to authentic content. And we know that authentic content can inspire students, can engage students, which is really what we want in the classroom. If you have some other websites that are specifically open education resources, so those that are basically designed for teachers to freely access and use, then I do invite you to our Padlet. You will see a link for the Padlet. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that tool. It's a separate website. We will leave that Padlet up during our presentation. And so if anything of URLs, of links, then please share during the session. So slide one is big screen, entering into this vast realm of the digital world. We have screens number 2 and 3. We come back to our windscreen, and I'm going to introduce our window screen as well. I am also looking again at Corpora. Here is the corpus that we looked at before, COCA. And as you can see, it's actually part of a family of corpora, something called English corpora. As Majid pointed out, the windscreen term is something that is much more common in the UK. We use Windshield. If you wanted to compare the frequency between those two varieties of English, you can go into this tool and tap into COCA. And then if you look down here, you'll see the British National Corpus, another great corpus. And you can actually make comparisons between the two varieties of English. You can also do a comparison over time. If you look over here, you've got the British National Corpus running from the 1980s to 1993, COCA from 1990 to 2019. You can look at how words have changed. In fact, I was surprised the other day, I see there are two corpuses that go back to the 1800s. One is the corpus of the US Supreme Court opinions, and another one is something called the Hansard corpus. So you can look at how language has changed over time. I had mentioned earlier that there are very specific corpora out there. One that I want to point out is the coronavirus corpus, something that is being updated on a regular basis. And as you might guess, it is specific to the pandemic. There's one on American soap operas, if you're interested in the language that is used in soap operas. And another one, Time magazine, a very popular magazine. And you can search for words and expressions only using this particular database. So it is a very powerful tool. Again, if you're interested in this, I would like to refer you to the expert. Mark Davies is a linguist who created COCA, and he did just a few months ago a great webinar for a group of professionals in Southeast Asia. It's on YouTube. It's about a 90-minute watch. It's a long one. There's some technical issues along the way during the recording, but it is definitely worth watching if you want to learn more about COCA, and especially about the changes that happened in the last 2 years to this particular corpus. So again, Windshield, Window Shield. Windscreen, Window Screen. I would like you to pick one of the two screens. Doesn't matter whether it's the wind screen or the window screen, and answer 3 questions. And I believe our task force will post those 3 questions in the chat box. My first question is, what do these different screens let through, or what do they stop? What does your screen, the screen that you chose, let through, and what does it stop? How protected are you? Question number 2. How protected are you? And from what? And then my third question is, does the screen prejudice your view in any way? Does the screen way? And Majid, please let me know whenever you see an interesting answer that you'd like to share.
Already I see a few interesting responses. Yusuf Khan says, let's light and stops dust. This is his first answer. Shumaila Zeb says, let's through life stops negativity. Very interesting. So,
negativity. Now we're getting metaphorical. We're getting that's good.
And he said, let's through life and stops negativity. So very deep. And most saying let's light in and stops. Another person says stops win.
Good.
So, and I will also try to pick some responses from Facebook. It's a little delayed, but so far these are some of the interesting responses from.
Okay. Well, for anybody who grew up in the Midwest in the US, like myself, we think of this particular screen as the one that will keep out the mosquitoes, the bugs,
I should mention this interesting response that it stops coronavirus as well. Someone says.
Well, I suppose the windscreen or the windshield in the U.S. would do that. Glass definitely would keep the virus from entering a space or passing through a space. I don't think the window screen would be able to do that. Any others?
It says that let's light in Facebook. Almost similar responses. Protects from and helps to ventilate, clears the view.
So let me ask you this, Majid. The one question that I think is the most difficult of the three is, does the screen prejudice your view in any way? Would you mind giving me your opinion on the wind screen or the window screen?
I think the windscreen is supposed to provide you the most vivid or clear view, because if you're driving, you're responsible for your safety. You're moving at a speed, so windscreen should be helping you, assisting you to have a very clear view, accurate view. Window screen, not so much, I must say, because if you're, standing a little further away, it surely blurs your view. And the closer you come, and if you fix your eyes against it, then the view becomes clearer.
Good. Thank you. So I see some of you are already thinking in a figurative way, and that's what I want you to do right now, because I want you to think about the digital screen and think about the same three questions. What does the screen let through? What does the screen stop? How protected are you? And does the screen prejudice your view in any way? And I suppose we could take it a step further in saying, does the content of the screen, of the digital screen, the smartphone screen, the computer screen, prejudice you in any way? Just think about those three questions for a second. Oftentimes in the digital world, I'm not sure we give enough time to think through difficult questions, roll them around in our head. We tend to want this instant gratification. I'm guessing that it's time we move to screen number 4. Because this is probably the most complex screen that we'll look at. And it's based on those three questions that I've just asked you. It's a smoke screen. I'm not sure, I'm guessing most of you are familiar with this term. I want to share another great online resource. It's an online dictionary called WordNik. WordNik is unique, I think, in some ways, through these tabs that are up here. The list tab, the discuss tab, and the love tab. These three tabs are a little bit more like social media. It's Web 2.0. It's where basically folks can send in their ideas, can comment, can love a word. And I'm sure many of us love certain words. I like, in particular, the relate, where you get synonyms, hypernyms, hyponyms, very quickly. I also like the C, and the C is, as you might guess, a chance to visualize the expression. And here we have kind of an older photo, probably the 1950s or 60s, I'm guessing, showing what a smoke screen does. And it's either hiding the ship or it is trying to block the ship's captain from being able to see. It's about deception. It's about trickery. And when we think about this in a figurative way with our digital screens, we begin to think about the area of critical media literacy. And Majid's already mentioned our MOOC on media literacy. And we have another poll for you, if you wouldn't mind taking it. Short, 1 question, 2 answers, if we could get our poll up. Majid, what are you seeing?
70, 80, 90, 100, 110 respondents have picked option number 2, embrace the topic, help the student learn how to distinguish fact from fiction. This is overwhelmingly the choice of our respondents. Only very few, but 4% are saying avoid the topic, it's too complex and risky, but overall more than 200, 96% going for option number 2.
Very good. I'm guessing in some ways this also would depend on what age level you're teaching. I think if I were teaching quite young learners, well, there would be a different approach to it altogether, if at all. I would agree that it's complex. And I agree that it could be risky as well, depending on how it could be approached. But I would like to think like there are a lot of resources available for people who are interested in, let me see if I can get this to move ahead. There we go, who are interested in critical media literacy. This is taken from one of those resources, and I will tell you where this actually comes from a little bit later. But first I want you to take a look at it, and we do have another poll, if we could pop that poll up really quickly. Again, a fairly straightforward request with 3 possible answers. Let me move that over there. And again, Majid, what sort of responses are you seeing?
Interesting. Numbers are rising because right now, our respondents are taking the poll. 65% saying true, 10% saying false, and about 40% saying, because numbers are still changing, so I will let the overall majority take their poll. It's 65% saying true, 10% saying false, and the 20% saying undecided.
So I think most of you are I'll be honest with you. When I first looked at it, I thought this was fake news. I will be truly honest with you about that. This is from a game. It's called Factitious. You can see the website down at the bottom, and our task force will share the link with you as well. I think if you were to look a little bit more carefully, you'd begin to see some interesting language, like the actual molecule that they refer to called allicin down here. Granted, it could be a fake molecule as well. For those of you who are undecided, I get it. I believe it. And I think the first thing that we want to do is find out what the source is. And I will show you the source. This is the source of the article that you saw. Some of you hopefully will recognize this wonderful journal, Popular Science. It is what the title suggests, a way to make science popular. And they take actual research written up in research articles in academic language and convert it into something that is somewhat easier to read for eyes like mine. You can, again, tap into this wonderful journal for your own students. Please be my guest. It is not an open education resource, but I think you're allowed a certain number of articles per month. If you like these kinds of games, there is another game that I really want to recommend. It came out fairly recently, and it is this one right here. It's called Harmony Square. It is considerably more involved. The language level is higher, I will warn you. I think it's probably closer to a B2 level or a strong B1 level that's required to really make the most of the game. But it does allow you to be a character that is actually trying to create a disinformation campaign. And this is a tool that is open for everybody to use. It is an open education resource. There's no freemium model, it's completely free. And then there's the MOOC over here on the right that Majid had mentioned to you, the media literacy MOOC. And this is for English language learners. So an A2 and above will certainly gain something from it. I took the MOOC, I learned something from it, not so much from the language side of it, but certainly from the content side of it. So here's what I want to kind of recap just a little bit. What we've been looking at. We've looked at 4 screens so far. We began with a big screen, abundance, excess, maybe a sense of feeling overwhelmed. And we start to look at these screens with a little bit of skepticism. We realize that maybe our view is distorted a little bit, that we're not seeing exactly what we think we see. Then we enter a stage where skepticism crescendos. We are very wary of truthfulness. And we believe that there could be a hidden agenda behind some of the things that we're looking at, which is not a bad thing to do. And I want to try to reel things in now with our last 2 screens. I want to try to bring this digital world a little bit closer to our hearts. And I want to refer to our 5th screen, our touch screen, in a figurative way. I want to mention that when I was growing up, I had a chance to take a few different languages. And I always remember my Spanish teacher bringing Don Quixote and Lazarillo de Tormes and La Vida es Sueño, 3 classic Spanish books that are written in really old Spanish, very hard to read, but he brought them to life from his sheer love of storytelling. I had a French teacher who started to dance because of certain grammatical structures. He loved French so much that he was dancing when he talked about grammar. And a Russian teacher who simply liked to go outside on long walks and also tell stories about Slavic culture. They all 3 knew and understood that there was a way to engage students through good content. We've been trying to do that in the digital world. We're using things like Padlet. We're using things like breakout rooms, chat boxes. We're giving chances to students to speak as well during our classes. At least I hope that is the case. But let's not forget how important engaging through content is, and content that truly touches our students. So here's what I'm going to invite you to do. I'm going to invite you to actually look away from your screen, or maybe even just black out your screen. I can do, let's see if I can get this. I can do this. And I want you to bear with me for just a minute or 2, and I just want you to use your ears. I'm going to share a ghazal in Urdu. I want you to listen to it. If you don't know Urdu, don't worry. Just enjoy the sound of it. Try to enjoy the sound of my very imperfect Urdu. सुना है लोग उसे अंक बार के देखते हैं, सो उसके शायर में कुछ दिन ठहर के देखते हैं. सुना है रात है usko kharab halon se, so apne aap ko barbad karke dekhte hain. Suna hai bole to baton se phool jete hain. Ye baat hai to chalo baat karke dekhte hain. Suna hai din ko usse tipliyan satati hain. सुना है रात को जुगनू ठहर के देखते हैं सुना है उसके बदान की तराश ऐसी है कि फूल अपनी खबा इन कतार के देखते हैं सुना है उसके लाबों से गुलाब चालते हैं सो हम बहार पे इल्जाम दार के देखते हैं Welcome back. I understand from my colleague when we were rehearsing this yesterday, I will be frank with you, that in Pakistan it's common to say wow, wow after each line.
I must point out that the chat box is doing exactly that. Chat box is full of wow, 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 and awesome, marvelous, zabardast, speechless, bahut acha. So I'm just reading through some of these responses, very typical. They're overwhelmed by the probably selection of poetry, but your delivery as well, I must say.
Well, thank you, and I owe much to Majid as well, who also coached me through this particular ghazal. So thank you, Majid. I've had the fortune of visiting many countries. I must say that the Pakistani love for music and poetry surpasses that of many other countries, far surpasses that of the US. I believe that in the US we have much to learn from the Pakistanis' reverence towards poetry. And I want to thank my Pakistani colleagues for helping me understand just how important that is. I want to emphasize with a touchscreen how important something stripped of visual support actually is. I think they call it unplugged in the music industry, and the idea of focusing on the very dilution, if I can say that, the distillation rather of a message, of communication, and of sparking students' interests and their passion. And this is perhaps the real meaning of touchscreen, somewhat of an oxymoron, I believe, or maybe an oxymoronic challenge, in that you need to figure out how to work around distortion, distraction, and even the potential for deception that is inherent in the digital screen, and truly be able to touch learners. My last screen, I'm not sure if you can guess, screen 6 of 6. We're on a roll with our figurative screens. And to wrap up, that is my last screen. It's my home screen. And I'm speaking figuratively again. This was truly my home screen growing up as a child. It was the screen that basically told me that it was time to get up, go get something to eat, go outside and play, or maybe even just go to sleep. I understand this was a fairly common screen as well. Growing up in Pakistan, Majid, you had mentioned that at one point.
Yes, until 80s, mid-80s, this used to be the 18-hour screen. There used to be just 6 hours of programming, and for 18 hours, you were supposed to do something else, like, enjoy life rather than sitting in front of the box.
So I do invite you, because this is all about coming back home, that if to move your shoulders, move your head. If you want to stand up, move your arms around. If there's somebody else in the room, maybe you want to look at them, smile at them, acknowledge them. I want to make sure that you all come home safely and that your students do too. Thank you so much. Bahut shukriya. Khuda Hafez.